On this virtual tour stop, we're standing in about a 120-year-old stand of longleaf pine growing on a xeric sandhill site right outside of Hoffman, North Carolina. And as you pan around and take a look at the stand, I want to point out a couple of things that make this a little bit different than some of the more picturesque, open longleaf pine savannas and woodlands that I've shown you in other virtual tour stops. One of the big differences is the absence of herbaceous ground cover in this stand. If you look around, we're not really seeing the wiregrass, we're not really seeing the blue stem and that whole suite of other understory plants that we would normally want in an upland longleaf pine stand. The other thing that I'd like to point out is this pretty dense layer of mid-story scrub oaks that we have. Most of this being comprised of things like turkey oak, blackjack oak, and some post oak. We just kind of call it a catch-all scrub oak on these sites. But these two things that you're seeing really are both pretty related to the same cause. They're symptoms of fire suppression. So on this site, we haven't really had fire in this stand in about 50 years. So fire suppression has really kind of altered the character of this stand by allowing these mid-story oaks to, really kind of come up a lot more dense than we would normally have them. To be fair, we don't want them gone. The goal isn't to have mid-story oaks absent from the stand. Various wildlife species like wild turkeys and fox squirrels and things like that really do kind of rely on these for mass production. We just don't want thousands of stems per acre, which is what we have now. But anyway, allowing these to develop to this size, to the point where they're really going to be difficult to control with fire, as they continue to drop their fuel onto the forest floor, that can change fire behavior. Their presence produces a lot of mid-story shade, which further degrades the ability of the site to actually host some of those herbaceous plants that we want in the understory. It also kind of hinders longleaf pine regeneration itself. It builds up a lot of litter. The litter's a little bit different, it burns differently, and that shade can really knock back the ability of shade-intolerant species like longleaf to regenerate and persist on this site. So if you look around, from a red-cockaded woodpecker management standpoint, if you look beyond the oak, we're actually doing okay on this site. We have, 50 to 60 square feet of overstory longleaf pine. Most of them are up over about 12 inches in diameter, so we're kind of hitting those habitat metrics out here. It's just we have way too much of this oak, and we don't have that grounds or that understory vegetation component. So on a site like this, these are areas where we might want to look into some rehabilitation or more restoration-focused treatments to take a stand like this back towards red-cockaded woodpecker habitat. And I'm going to shut the video off and take you to a couple of stops where we will showcase some of those efforts.